Okay, just 1 second. I hope I'm audible to everyone. So, good
Yes.
evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you all today for the webinar on building a career in public policy. I am Kuhu Chauhan. I manage admissions and outreach at ISPP, and I'll be introducing our esteemed panelists today. We are honored to have a distinguished group of professionals who bring with them a wealth of experience and insights in the field of public policy. Let me start with Mr. Yash Agarwal, who is currently the Manager of Global Stakeholder Engagement at ICANN and the founder of Public Policy India. Yash is a dynamic technology policy professional with 6 years of diverse experience working with organizations like ICANN, Twitter, and the Indian Parliament. He has been instrumental in advocating for sound policy choices to drive social good. Alongside his professional career, Yash has built Public Policy India, a knowledge platform making public policy accessible and engaging while supporting young Indians in pursuing careers in this field. His contributions extend to teaching and conducting workshops at prestigious institutions like IIMs, IITs, and others. Welcome, Yash, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Next, we have Diksha Tiwari, an ISPP alumna of class of 2021 and sports policy advisor at EY. Diksha specializes in leveraging sports as a powerful tool for community development and social change. With her expertise in sports policy, she has been instrumental in driving impactful strategies that align with broader societal goals. Her work reflects a deep understanding of how sports can influence public policy and foster positive change. Diksha's journey in public policy is marked by her commitment to creating meaningful impact, and her insights will undoubtedly enrich today's discussion. Welcome and thank you, Diksha, for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Kuhu.
Next, we have Ms. Vyoma Dadij, an ISPP alumna of class of 2022. She is currently working as an assistant manager in the government and public sector transformation vertical at PwC India. With her expertise in public policy, business analytics, and big data, she has collaborated with various state and union government clients, including her notable contributions to Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin, for which she received a letter of recommendation. Vyoma has also contributed to impactful research and volunteered with UNDP Yemen on the Digital Humanitarian Support Project. Welcome and thank you, Vyoma, for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me. Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Arindam Upmanyu. He is an alumnus of ISPP class of 2020. Arindam is currently a consultant with public finance team at Deloitte India and an accomplished public policy practitioner. A graduate of Pandit Deen Dayal Petroleum University with a major in governance and public administration, he has a keen understanding of India's administrative structure, economic development, healthcare gaps, and foreign policy. His prior experience includes working with NSDC, Carnegie India, and KPMG, where he contributed to government advisory projects across public health and animal welfare. Arindam also shares his insights on core policy issues through his Substack newsletter. Welcome and thank you, Arindam, for joining us.
Thanks, Kuhu. Thanks for the invite.
Next, we have Mr. Prakhyat Mathur, who is an alumnus of ISPP class of 2024. He is currently a senior associate at V Communications. He specializes in policy advisory, public affairs, and corporate communication. With prior experience as an executive consultant at EY and internships at Godrej Industries, the Office of Member of Parliament, and the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, Prakhyat has demonstrated expertise in economic development advisory and public sector consulting. Welcome and thank you, Prakhyat, for joining us.
Thank you for having me here.
And now I'm excited to share that today's discussion would be moderated by Diksha. Diksha is perfectly positioned to guide us through this session. She will lead the conversation, ensuring we gain valuable insights from our esteemed panelists. Over to you, Diksha.
Thank you, Kuhu. Welcome all to this webinar. I'll quickly start with the first question to Yash. Yash, first of all, thank you so much for making a platform to, solve a problem of accessibility of public policy. I think many people don't know a career like this even exists. So thank you for being a active workplace. First question to you is, how did you land up in public policy as a career? And when you started, how was it like? And now, what are the kind of changes that you've seen over time?
Firstly, Diksha, in fact, I'm just so glad to see so many friends and familiar faces on this call. Like, especially Vyoma, Arindam, they're all people I've met before and I've really learned a lot from. So it's just very good to be here. And thank you to ISPP for the invite, right? I think it's a slightly longish answer in terms of, how I got into policy, in a very deeply personal one, but I'll try and just wrap it up fairly quickly as much to the extent I can. Um, I mean, I've always known that I wanted to work in the, let's just say, government space, okay? But to be very honest, I had no idea what was public policy till December 2017, okay? And why the government space? Because I just remember, I mean, I'll spare you the details, but essentially while I was growing up, right, there was this one particular incident wherein my granddad, okay, so there was, news playing on in the house, some news TV channel, how it's on 24/7. And there was something to do with retail policy, something like that. And he just commented that, if this change wouldn't had happened, right, our family's fortunes probably would have been far worse than what they were. Essentially, what he was trying to say that, that owing to a policy change at some point in the past, right, it just led to better economic outcomes for a lot of people. I mean, that's not what he meant as a general principle, but you get the point, right? And so I didn't understand anything, of course. But the only thing I took away was, oh, wow, government has so much power, right? And I was just very impressed, right? I think it was class 10th or 11th, something like that, right? I was like, okay, so how can I work in this space? Never considered UPSC because, wanted to get into IFS, which meant like a single digit number of people that are hired in, the general category, right? So I was like, not happening because I frankly had a higher chance of winning a lottery ticket in Kerala, like, than getting to IFS. And I'm not the best test taker either, right? I just can't study. So anyways, so that was out of the picture. I like, okay, maybe journalism, right? If not direct policy making, I could influence, how policies are perceived or messaging. So went to symbiosis and, did the degree. But the day I got into symbiosis, not the day itself, but in the sense in the first semester. So I was like, the placement coordinator, and for the batch, and I came across one of my super seniors. She was just debating with a particular one of India's largest media houses, I would say, right? And no names, of course. This is not about one particular person, and for like a very nominal sort of a amount in the salary. And I was like, you know what? This field makes you work so hard and doesn't even pay, right? I'm not going to do this, right? So back to square one, right? This very brutal sort of forced thinking, right? But the only thing I knew was that I don't know anything, right? And so I was like, okay, let me do one thing. I have 3 years in this college, right? I was confident I would pass. I would not get backlogs at least, right? So I was like, let me do one thing. Let me just try and work and intern wherever I can, right? And that's what I started doing. So in 3 years of Simbi, right, in Pune, I ended up doing like and thank God, a lot of these were mandatory internships as well. Some 7, 8 internships, each in different city, function vertical. And quite frankly, Diksha, like, by the time I graduated in 2019, I was what, 20 years old, 20 or 21, something like that. And I had a lot of experience, at least diverse experience, right? If not full time, but practically full time. And that allowed me to build whatever career I have. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Yeah, it certainly does. I think just exploring a lot more, sectors and how government functions in general is so essential to make that broader understanding about policy in itself. Because no matter how much of expertise and skill you can bring, a broader understanding is what really matters and how you can contribute. So thank you so much for answering that question. Next question I'll be asking to Vyoma. I think Vyoma, you have a lot of experience, and we have a lot of consultants today here. But you were working with the department, with the Ministry, Rural Development Ministry, and the Department of Information and Technology in Goa also. So you also have varied experience from state to center. There have always been a debate of should you be an expert in one particular sector, or should you have skills that can help government in any possible way, or enhance governance in any possible way. So how was your experience like starting from there till now, and what have you learned substantially from this experience?
Yeah, so I'll try to answer that question. It's kind of varied. So, first of all, it's been a wonderful experience, I would say. And yes, there is a huge difference in how the union government works and how state government operates. So definitely you get to learn a lot of things from that. in terms of skill versus expertise, I am still not in a position to say that I'm an expert or having an expertise of a certain field. It'll be 3 years with PwC this year, and I am on my fifth project and the fifth domain that I'm working on. So, you know, I've been jumping from rural development, from startup to technology to aviation, now with UNICEF. So it's been a combination of multiple things. But for me, what has worked is skills, definitely. Being a public policy professional in a consultancy firm, I would say you always have an edge above the others, because it's always BTech and MBAs and not a BTech and a public policy or a BA or a public policy professional. And what you see nowadays is that government is building policies, right? Whether it be tech policy, you are a sports policy advisor yourself, so you know it, right? So there is a huge requirement of resources who can cater to that particular need and quickly solve that particular problem. So if you are having those set of skills where you can put yourself in the shoes of a stakeholder and say this is something which I would not like, you automatically change the direction of the intervention that you're kind of designing. So skills definitely help, and I would say in the beginning of your career it's better to have as much experience in as much domains as possible, because for me personally, I was not always inclined to a particular domain. So some people are. So if you're already very clear, you want to be, an education expert in the say next 10 to 15 years, you start building your, career from scratch to that particular domain. But I wanted to gain an experience in different verticals and see where I am inclined more. So I hope that answers your question to some extent.
Yeah, it does. It's a fascinating story in itself, having experience of different sectors. I think I'll also just step in and share my story. I always wanted to be in sports, but I had absolutely no clue about sports consultancy and, how you be a policymaker and impact sports. I unfortunately couldn't find a Yash Agarwal to help me out finding a place where I can apply and, just be around that. I had to make my own path, but I also tried different sectors that have impacted my consultancy so much, in general, because you generally have a broader view of how the government work. I think as a public policy person, the basic skill is how the government works. If you can figure that out and you learn that out, then I think that is something that helps you navigate that part. That's the map that you have. So thank you so much, Yoma, for answering my question. Now, the next question will be for Prakyat. You are an ex-EY and you also have been working with the GPS consulting. So I also understand, the kind of journey you have come. But you have also moved from an office of a parliamentarian to a corporate consultancy as such. What are the kind of skill sets that you think you were able to get into a consultancy when you came from a purely government setup? And how was your experience in general like to be a public policy person?
Thank you, Diksha, for this question. And I think today I am going to learn a lot of things from my seniors and Yash. I think on LinkedIn we have connected a lot of times. We see our names scrolling down, but for the first time we are meeting us. Thank you, Kuhu, for having me here. So I think that my story is also similar to Yash and what Vyoma was also adding to, that we have had a lot of diverse experiences with diverse stakeholders. So to add that, I started working with a member of parliament, and then I have also worked with political party in a political campaign. I've seen myself there also. I have seen myself on ground with an MLA constituency with farmers. I've seen myself in a central civil societies also. So I've seen diverse things, and what it has helped me is to understand the stakeholders better. Because at this point, when I'm working at the convergence of the government and industries, so it is very important to understand the point of view of the people who are working on the field, who are working in the corporate offices, who are working in the state government, who is working in the central government. And every stakeholder has a different kind of an understanding of policy, different kind of understanding of the challenges, the same. And one thing that I really I think picked up was about how we can communicate the same thing in different manner to different stakeholders, so that they can all align with the message that we want to communicate. So that's one thing that I really like while working with member of parliaments. I think the kind of the national view they allow us to get on topics is very important, and that really helped me to again help my clients and my other colleagues to make them understand that how things are different when it comes to state and how it different when it comes to national thing. So that is another skill set that I would say is important, is even the understanding the hierarchy in the government. It is a very important to understand the hierarchy, so that the messaging and the tools that we use to communicate also changes, because given their mandate. So these are few things that I wanted to add, and thank you so much for asking. Yes, you are back, Diksha.
Yeah. Sorry.
Lost
Yeah.
you in.
No. Please continue. I'm so sorry.
So yeah, that's what I was saying, that understanding hierarchy and understanding structures, the functioning of various stakeholders. Mainly, it is not just about the government in the picture now. Nowadays, every stakeholder is equally important. Like for example, in the background of free trade agreements, industries is as equally important as the government, right? So working at the convergence of this, I think a proper understanding of all the stakeholders is really important, and that's what my diverse experience has helped me to build in. Thank you.
That's so great. I think the amount of stakeholders that exist, you can never know unless you get into that process, right? And you're just surprised that, oh, this person also influence. Wow, we need to talk to them also. And I think just sitting on our sofas and listening to TV and just seeing how things proceed, you never realize how deep the system is and how many people are involved in that entire process. But you have a full circle of experience. You started with politics and just the frame of policy making, then research, formulation. Can you spend like 30 seconds telling what organization you are working? Because I tried to figure out what Week is, but I couldn't find much information on it.
Let me
Yeah.
introduce it. Earlier, it
Yeah.
was called We Communicate. It was a PR and a research policy research firm, but now it is purely policy research and advisory firm. So, to encapsulate, we are basically people who are helping the industries to corporate to navigate this complex policy thing. And it really sounds easy when we talk about the government functioning, but it's not. It's very complex when it comes to what are the foundations even the officers have while formulating the policies, while working in a structure. So the corporates are also figuring it out, and we are helping them to figure that out.
That's so great. That's so great. Thank you for answering my question. Next, I'll come to Arindam, who was on this similar panel 1 year ago with me, and is the first person I also connected in terms of sports. I think we were two out of place people in different cohorts where sports were a common passion, and I always have great chats with Arindam. Arindam, policy making itself is an invisible role, right? No one really knows that we exist. People like us exist, and the kind of roles that we play. So if you can spend some time explaining the nature of role that you have to, once you get into policy, it is invisible, right? You would not get certificates, you would not get media attention, no matter how much work you do. It is people that you work for. So just spend some time telling about your journey and how important this entire concept is, that you can't be on like the front facing of hard work that you put.
Right. Thanks, Diksha. So, in my journey so far, I've learned two crucial lessons. I think that's something that I would start with, that managing people and managing time, two of the most crucial things that I think most of us were talking about in some or the other way. Uh, when I started with, of course, I had no idea of what comes in terms of hierarchy, in terms of who's who and how, even as simple as how to sort of deal with what person of what hierarchy, how to communicate, how to get things done, how to push for something to get done. So all of these things are in some ways an art form that you learn as you sort of practice more and more. So in my journey, I started out with KPMG in their healthcare practice. This was something I had never considered myself as one of the health policy enthusiasts, but it turned out to be one of the most uh, uh, enriching learning experiences of at least my career so far, because that was a challenge during COVID. That was a challenge during a crisis that hits the nation, and you have to sort of navigate that. So many lessons came out of that I had to sort of not just learn the problem, but also know that that problem does not have a direct solution, and know that there is like an entire vast ecosystem to navigate through. So that led me to a lot of lessons, a lot of key learnings. But eventually, I sort of shifted domains with Deloitte and took public finance, which was something which was also closer to my mind, closer to something what I wanted to do. And even in this, I find that managing time and managing people remain the most constant factors that you have to have each and every single day. So yeah, I would say that the more you practice, the more you are in the system, the more you even if you're not on full-time roles, even if you can get any internship with any organization that allows you to understand your own strengths, your own weaknesses, what sort of career suits you more than you suiting that career line. I think that's a more of an important take to understand how you want to shape the direction of your career, the trajectory of how you want to grow. So I think that's also an important take that I found so far.
Yeah, and how invisible is our work is if we can spend 30
Right,
seconds.
right. So with public policy, I think whether we are consultants or whether we are political analysts or whether we are even some of us who are in the civil servants role, I think a lot of us are invisible, but there are, and I think in the advocacy domain, there are ever so many people who are invisible but have the loudest voices when it comes to changing each and every single clause of an act. So I think it's a entire vast ecosystem on how that entire thing is run on a state to state basis, on a municipality to municipality basis, on a national level. It's whole another game. But so I think we do remain invisible, but that comes with the deal. That's, I think, some of us or maybe all of us knew that that was going to happen, and maybe that's where we get the kick from. Like if you get to know each and every single person that the scheme that you're working on, or a program that you're working on, that's going to be a whole another thing if you got to know them personally. So it's somewhere satisfying also to know that you have that ability to create that impact, but also it teaches you that despite being invisible, you can affect so much. And there have been people before who have done ever so much, but have always remained invisible, and perhaps their names or their work we still are not aware of, or not meant to be aware of. So yeah, it's a complicated domain in its various sectors, but I think that's the way it's structured.
Sure. Thanks, Arindam. I think I'll now be asking the most common questions that we all get on LinkedIn. आप लोग करते क्या हो? What do you guys even do? What are the skill sets that are required? How does your day look like in a public office, in the government office? Really, asked about. So yeah, any order you guys want to go in? Yash, you want to start first?
Sure, Diksha. I would probably take this slightly differently, in the sense, focus less on, what the day-to-day looks like, right? But more about what do you do if you're working in public policy, right? See, there's some method to the madness. From whatever little I've learned, it's like, there's broadly 5 pillars to policy making, right? So there's ideation, design, implementation, monitoring, evaluation, right? Different books have slightly different terminologies to explain the exact same thing, right? Now, the point being that if a government comes up with public policy changes or amendment, or new policies from the scratch to solve any particular socio-economic societal problem, right? Very simply put, right? Now, depending on which part of this entire process are you working at, right, will determine a lot of things, actually, not just the skills you need, but also the kind of organization you can work with, to an extent, what kind of pay you can expect, right, or what kind of spaces you can be at, etc. Right? So, for example, if you're working policy ideation and design, right, that is usually done by organizations which are more on the academic side of things. So it can be universities, think tanks, etc. Right. So then the skill set that you need would focus more on that. Right. On the other hand, if you're working in, say, policy implementation, that's mostly NGOs, right, or grassroots organizations, right? So that has a different skill sets. If you're more on the technical side of policy making, right, if you have skills such as data analysis, data, etc., then you'll be a better fit for something like monitoring evaluation, right? So the point I'm trying to make is that for anyone who's considering a career here, right, or already has just about started, do think about, what are the fundamentals which underpin, how do people go about building careers, right? Because that just becomes very important, because a lot of people who want to, for example, work in, say, ideation or work in a think tank, right? Doesn't make sense for you to spend too much time in acquiring skills which might not be exactly the part of what you'll be doing on your day to day, right? No learning is harmful. That's not the point. But, you could spend that time, upskilling on what we call SME, subject matter expertise, right? And in terms of what we need to do, I mean, again, and I'm sure that, Arindam, Vyoma, Prakyat, everyone can add a lot more on this. But see, that also comes down to, how there's like different pillars to every job, right? There's a spaces, there's functions, verticals, right? It comes down to what space are you working in policy, right? So for example, if you're working in corporate policy, right? Then, why do corporates have a policy team? Because every business operates in an environment set up by the government, right? By the regulator, right? So that comes with a different set of priorities, right? On the other hand, consulting firms, but frankly, they work on everything between A to Z, right? Like, so, there's a very diverse set of skills that you might require there. Social impact firms, right? They have very different requirements. Again, multilaterals is again very separate, right? So could be like an hour-long conversation, but I hope that paints a picture in terms of, just figuring out the fundamentals of where you're placed. So, yeah.
Sure. Vyoma, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Yash has very well actually explained the different verticals of policy career that a person can have. I maybe on the other hand will actually talk on the day-to-day tasks that you might have to do, and I can only talk about my experience. So maybe anyone who's interested in a consultancy can take something out of it. The reason being, I'm answering this question because when I was in the placement cohort and the placement coordinator and didn't know anything about policy, I wanted to know what that particular person is doing in his day-to-day routine. So first of all, I'll try to brief everyone about how these Big Four works, because to be very honest, people don't know what actually we are doing, and how you can be a part of those teams. So Big Four were essentially, working with clients on assurance audits, finance companies, right? But recently they have a new vertical called advisory. Now in advisory, you have again different verticals, sub-verticals, and they are ranging from, infrastructure to startups to health domains to education to everything else, right? I am working with the government team who's working on social part of it. So our team is kind of a team which works across, cutting across all the domains. So, and we work for central as well as state governments. So this is the whole picture. Now, when we talk about central and state governments, these are our clients. Now, the projects, as you mentioned before, could be various. So currently, I'm working with UNICEF India. That also comes under this particular domain, right? Now, previously, I worked with Ministry of Rural Development. So with Ministry of Rural Development, the task was not to develop the policy, not to do anything related with policy, I would say, because it was a flagship scheme, and already established in place. But sooner or later, I realized that I'm actually a part of policy implementation. And how I got to realize, because I spent 9 months, doing the monitoring, checking the data, talking to the, state officials, going to the field, seeing, what kind of, work is being done at the ground level and something of that sort. But again, as Yash mentioned, it depends on the role, depends on the firm, it depends upon the kind of work that you are doing. So in a consultancy, you can be a part of a research and a development team as well. You can be a part of a team who's doing implementation. We are essentially at a client-facing role, so we are always with the client, and part of previous to that, I had experience with State Government of Goa, which was essentially a revamp of startup and IT policy. So your day-to-day tasks would vary according to the work that you are doing. But for consultancy, if someone is interested, I would say you are always on your foot. You are always on your foot in the sense that the next day, what client would ask, you have no idea. So that's something that you learn through your whole journey, and that's interesting, that's challenging. But that's the kind of work you do when you're a part of a consultancy, and it helps you, make you strong, makes you more intellectual, I would say, because you kind of brainstorm every day. And I would add on to what Arindam mentioned: managing time, managing people. Again, a very, very big part of consultancy. So that would be my answer to this.
Yeah, and when she's saying clients, these are senior IS officers and IPS officers, which are scary in their own senses. And also when we get into these rooms, it is a lot of responsibility on our shoulders, of what we are saying, because we are in a place where we are advocating for certain things, and it is also important to realize that when we are standing in those rooms, it is also the impact, long-term impact that we create. So that kind of understanding also comes in with the job that we do, that whatever we say will have long impact, and sometimes we don't even know what consequences that particular decision could have in a particular state, or if like a slightest of change in the scenario happens, what is the kind of impact that would happen. So public policy is also a very, very responsible role, and that spaces are very important that we are trying to fill. Thanks, Yoma, for answering the question. Prakhyath, do you want to go next?
Sure, thank you. I think
And
a
if you
lot of
can,
things.
sorry, if you can just focus a little bit more on, what kind of skills that one requires to be in these positions. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I think one of the other part of public policy is advocacy. That also comes into the process because the stakeholders are not able to, put up their voice or their point in front of the government a lot of times. So how they navigate through advocacy thing to showcase the government that why they are also important and why their point should be put up in the policies. Adding up to one more point to what Arindam said, that managing people, managing time. Third point that I would like to add is managing right information also, because I have seen myself in two fronts now. So while working with EY India, I was with the central ministry, where again, as Vyoma rightly said, that the clients are very senior IS officers and they are people of their own. And being somebody who has been an aspirant for like quite a few years, so I've seen that kind of an environment as well. And whatever you said, even your one word could be picked up and could be used against. Now I'm working with the corporates, and now my main stakeholder is the government. So working with IS officers to now seeking to work with IS officers to navigate their policies, it's very different thing. But the skills, I would again say, the understanding of what they want to listen. I think that is one important thing. The information that you are passing, how information can be used, what information, what words to be used. I think the vocabulary of public policy is also very, very important. Second dynamic would be, I would say maybe it is again about the communication tool you are using. So a lot of times what happens is that there are some pertinent point that you cannot take up on calls or to a particular hierarchy. So you have to identify that who is your relevant stakeholder, at what level this point has to be raised. Even it doesn't matter if it's the government or if it's your corporate client. So that is also another skill. And then always being on foot. I think public policy professionals, their life is like that. Anytime, any day, anything can be asked, and you never know. But you need to know. The expectation is that you need to know. So that's another case. So these are the few things. And keeping cool is something that we all are learning. I think I'm not the only one. So yeah, thank you so much for this.
I think there is no answer to keeping cool. That is a skill that you just learn while going. Arindam, can you go next? And then I'll be taking some questions from for the question answers that are coming in. Yeah, go ahead, Arindam.
Sure. Like Vyoma and Prakhyath said, I think in consulting, and Diksha, I'm sure you've known in sports advisory also, the day can vary from anything to anything. But when I was starting out, there is a structure to anything, but so I would sort of classify that into what a policy strategy might look like to what policy implementation might look like. So I think policy strategy, and so far what I've been a part of, there are multiple rounds of discussions which require you to have two key skill sets. That is, one is to write well and one is to speak well. Write well, I think one of the most major profound advices that I got at ISPP about writing well, and that still works to the day, whether in the consulting landscape or not, that when you write, limit your sentence to maybe 10 to 12 words. So the lesser number of a target of words you have, the more clear you have to get. So I think folks who might be listening in, but might be thinking that writing or reading is not my thing. It's something that you don't want to build towards. Even for that, I would advise that start looking for podcasts, news articles, which you might already be doing, but catch on to something that really suits your interests. So what worked for me was, and this is after a lot of my biases, during COVID, we all sort of found our 1 to 2 favorite things to do. And mine was to wait for the Sunday CNN Fareed Zakaria show. Fareed Zakaria is an Indian American journalist who works for CNN and the lead foreign policy analyst. He has a 1 hour show every Sunday, 7:30 to 8:30, and I used to wait for it because during that 1 hour, I kid you not, there's so much that I have learned, not just about speaking well, but also about thinking well. So that's what I was also trying to get to. So the more you write, the more you learn not just how to write well, you also learn how to think well. The more you realize how the idea or the assumption that you began with, that look, this is the outcome of what I'm writing, that might change the more you think, the quality of your thinking. And that's what regardless of whether you want to get into consulting or whether you want to get into advocacy or whether you want to get into any field, that's very, very crucial. Like, know how to think well. As easy as it sounds, it's a whole new evolution to its core. In terms of other skills that I think, well, I would repeat my advice of going for as many experiences and as many internships as possible, or even courses for that matter, if somebody is not up for internships. I think courses not for the sake of getting those certificates from X and Y company or X and Y professors from X and Y universities, but for actually getting those skills. Because once you get the skill, your value, however you might want to look at, shoots up astronomically. You can almost get into any gate or any door you want to be in. So I think reading well, writing well, communicating well, and sort of adapting to every landscape, which I think all of us have done in some or the other way, whether it's with Vyoma on multiple domains, or Prakhyat with the multiple things you've done so far, or with Yash from Twitter to PPI. So, and Diksha, you with sports advisory. So I think that's something that we all have to adapt to, and that's those are 3-4 skills that I would advise in terms to build towards a good career. And just to answer quickly, the day, yeah, anything to anything, back to square one. But but even in that, there are different levels of importance of what the client or these IAS officers might entrust you with. So with time, you would sort of figure out that government officials also develop a certain level of trust, a certain level of confidence in the people who they work with in terms of quality. So there is no two ways about it. The more better quality that you can get to, it's always the better. So you'll be prepared for anything, whether it is from strategy to implementation. So yeah, I think I'll stop there.
Yeah, thanks, Arindam. I think you've answered my question holistically. I'll just step in and say there's one more important skill that I would like to add for this entire discussion, is the ability to connect dots. So in public policy, because you are looking at the entirety of government, not just your particular department or just the policy that you're working in, it is so important to understand that there are so many other forces that impact implementation design or advocacy design or whatever approach you are taking. It has so many things that can influence. So your just ability to connect dots of what is happening in politics, maybe what happened across the country or across the world, and is if US have taken a particular decision, what kind of impact that would arise into your entire system, or if a government changes, then what kind of expectations change in if there is anything else that can possibly affect your plans. You should be ready about everything, because once we enter into such roles, everything is everything. As Arindam mentioned, you don't know how your day goes. Whatever you take as planned day, anything can come. Uh, Anything that can change government's position at a particular problem can also change. So I might be talking a lot vaguely, but I think my co-panelists do understand that how our days get affected by a small decision or small incident that have happened across the country. And we really don't know how that would pan out. But it is, of course, being on toes. All public policy roles are mostly that. So I think I have covered most of what questions that are coming in, but now I'll just start to I just picked out these themes of most of the questions that have come in. But one question
Just,
that
uh,
yeah.
just one thing.
Yes,
I just
Peter.
wanted to add on to what you said. So I
Yes.
think it's important for the folks who are sort of starting with their careers in public policy to know that what you mentioned about connecting dots, it's ever more real than it has ever been before. In terms of the more increasingly, I've noticed that states getting competitive with each other at almost every juncture. So one state would always want to know that what the other state has done in X or Y or Z domain and how they have done it, with what sort of money, with what sort of expenditure, and how they're managing that. So I think for the folks who are actually stepping in for this for the first time, I think this is the first jolt that they can expect to actually knowing the sources, knowing the credibility, and sort of catching up to the pace when it comes to connecting the dots in almost any and every discussion. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah,
Go
no,
for
no
it,
issues.
Diksha.
Exactly what I was saying. Please read your newspapers. Please see what's happening. It is so important to be an observer, to be in public policy space. You need to observe everything, right from a stall on a road and how they are operating in a free market uh, to maybe a national bulletin. Everything is important, and you become a better public policy person once you start linking that dots of a national bulletin and how it would affect a small stall on the road. So if that kind of ability you start bringing in, that's how you become a better public policy person. I will pick up a question from Anand Kumar. He says, Yash, I agree, but for freshers, there is no guarantee of what kind of projects we get in. And as other people have said, it requires different skills and time to build with time. Exactly. Anand, so basically this is how I would approach something like this for a fresher. You basically need some skill and knowledge, right? Some base that you require. That can be of any field. Public policy is for all fields. Government have some or the other interference, even if even if you are an engineer or you are a sociological, no, social, there is a psychological graduate is there. Philosophy honors is what she's doing. No matter what you're doing, I did political science when I was in Delhi University. No matter what you're doing, you'll always have space in policy. That is like the base thing to understand. Now you have to build your skill and knowledge somewhere to start with, and then courses like Indian School of Policy, what they provide is a holistic understanding. The role of public policy courses like Indian School of Public Policy provides is to open different windows for you. You will be going through a lot of these different windows across 1 year of time, and then you have to pick up those kind of skills and knowledge to build your own career in that manner. Then it's, of course, once you get that base, then you go up and understand how government functions, and that can be through any sector, through any functionary. As Yash mentioned, there are multiple ways in which you can contribute in a public policy setting. Policy has their own life circle, and wherever you step in and wherever you get in, you need to first understand how government functions, what are the kind of stakeholders, and then you can pick up your sector expertise and start building whatever interests you. So majorly these are my thoughts. But Yash, do you want to add to the question Anand have asked? Can you see the questions? I don't know if that is.
I think I can, Diksha, I haven't checked it out. But anyways,
Yeah.
so Anand, thanks for asking, right? Thanks for the question. Um, Probably a little simpler, or a different way of looking at it, which is see,
Yeah.
and there's something, it's like my pet peeve. I keep talking about it all the time because it really explains a lot of things to do with career building in this space, which is take any sort of, it's called the Tata principles, right? What is the reason why we buy anything and everything that a Tata sell, right? And Tata's is just one example. There can be any other conglomerate. That's not the point, right? From salt to steel to software, right? Because they've built trust over centuries, right? Now, India's a low trust society. Right? The only two ways, I mean, trust is at a scarcity, right? And the only two ways of building trust. Either you build it over a period of time or you borrow it from institutions, right? So tomorrow, if I come to you for a job, you would be like, I don't know if Yash has these skills or not, but Yash has worked at XYZ, so he might have those skills, right? In a sense, you borrow trust from the institutions that I've been associated with. The point, so the very specific point I'm trying to make is that ultimately it's purely a game of credentials, right? Credibility. And there's just two ways that you build that. Either you do that through the work experience route, right? There's two ways of building credentials, credibility. First is either through the work experience route, which is that, you can do a full-time job, you can volunteer somewhere, you can intern somewhere, you can do a fellowship, whatever, right? Or through the education route. So you can take a full-time degree or a diploma or a certificate course, etc., right? Ideally, a mix of both kinds of credentials, right? So, that's just how I would put it. So depending on where and how you're placed right now, right? And because all of us are different contexts, family, financial, personal, whatever, right? Depending on how and where you're placed right now, just think for yourself that what are the kind of credentials that I can acquire for myself at this point of time? That's it, right? I would tell you that, that should be your only and ruthless focus, nothing else. Don't think about things 2 years down the line or 5 jobs down the line. No, right? Right now, just how do I build those credentials for myself? You can maybe do diplomas, you can do short-term courses. I think ISPP has Lokniti, which is also very good, right? As an example, right? You can intern somewhere, you can volunteer somewhere, you can start publishing, any and all means to show your skills and learn them, right? That's all I would focus on at this stage of your career. So I hope that just provides some clarity.
Diksha, I would like to add to things
Yeah,
that
please
Yash
go ahead.
has said.
Yes, yes.
I think the question about the skills that Anand has asked, I see this as one of the core skill that we need for any role in the public policy domain is the communications, and I divide communication into three parts. First is the verbal communication, second written, and third is digital communication. And I think these three things are very important. Be it you if you are working in any project in any role, you are expected to communicate verbally what your idea is, to show it digitally what your idea is, and again you should be able to write it down in a different forms. It could be maybe an article or maybe a letter to any stakeholder or any form. So communication is something that I think we all know the importance of, and anybody who wants to start their career in public policy has to get really good with it. So one thing that, and second thing that has become really important as time goes is data. So you should know at least the basics of data analysis, understanding data, and visualization of data. I think these three things are very has become the minimum base of any role that you would be picking up in public policy. Thank you.
I agree with Prakhyath. I think data plays an important role in just convincing. Now, I think just a policy note might not be enough to convince. You need to show data, and I think it is just a gradual transfer of how things have turned out to be. That data is now available also. So a lot of people ask, do we need technical knowledge of R and all these big softwares? Maybe not. Maybe it depends on the kind of role, but a basic understanding, when a public policy person sees a pie chart or a data set, they should be able to make sense of it. That is basic. That you need to support. Every policy note nowadays that I see has some element of data. You don't need to be an expert in Excel or R and other big softwares that exist around the world, but you need to build that kind of understanding. One question I'll pick up, and Vyoma, if you can answer that question. Priyanka is asking, how can one apply for consultancy and political analysis role in Big Four?
That's a tricky question, I would say.
There's no one way.
There is no one way, and honestly, I was placed after ISPP, and that was also through Manish Agarwal, who was an ex-PwC partner, who kind of pitched in and was leading the placements at that point of time. And that's how, 4 of us from the whole cohort could get placed in EY or a PwC or a KPMG. So that was my story. But nowadays, I would be, everyone would laugh at me here if I would say, go to the website and, apply. So don't do that, or maybe do that, but connect with people. So another, essential part of being a public policy professional is building a network, connecting with as many people as possible. This is a very niche field, a very new, field, and every one of us is carving our way out, and everyone is helping each other to kind of pull ahead and make a path out of your journey. So it's essential for you to connect with people. So maybe we all have LinkedIn profiles. Connect with us. Maybe share with us a brief summary of about your work, about your skill set, and maybe if an opening comes up, definitely all of us are there to kind of support each other, and there are referrals and you can apply and things of that particular sort. Also, for consultancy specifically, I would say that project basis hiring, is one of the biggest factors of how people get placed there. So I was placed in PwC because therein they wanted a resource who had a public policy background, because the client was asking for the revamp of Goa startup and IT policy. So there was an opening for a public policy role, and hence by kind of skill sets matched the requirement. So that's how you kind of maybe apply to a consultancy, or maybe just be aware, have a good connection, have a good network, and you can maybe land up here. So that would be my answer.
I think Yash is dropping. Yash, thank you so much for spending time here. And everyone who is attending and listening, please feel free to drop a text on LinkedIn to Yash if you have more questions specifically for him. But I think he's just dropping out. Yash, am I correct?
Yes, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'll just have to drop off. I have to be somewhere. But thank you so much for having me. And yes, please do reach out
It
to
was so
LinkedIn.
nice
Always
chatting to you. Thanks. Thank you so much, Yash.
take care and see you, Arindam, Prakrit, Vyoma. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Yash.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Pleasure meeting you today.
And also, I'll just add to what Vyoma was saying. Sadly, there is not a lot of information of the kind of jobs that exist in public policy. I think Arindam is right here. When I was telling that I want to work in sports policy, no one had any clue how do you get into that, right? And also, there was no specific role mentioned saying that there is a public policy requirement in sports. There was nothing like such, right? I had to make that kind of space. So similarly, no matter what kind of background knowledge skill that you're coming with, there is space for you. You might have to create some new jobs. Even in Big Four, the kind of roles that were there in the traditional tender that comes out had no space for, there was no space for a public policy specialist to come in. But you can always create one. You can always bring in things that a government can benefit from. So at the end of the day, if you can make yourself beneficial for the government, you have your job. And most of the time, because this sector is so niche and is still coming up, you will have to create your own positions in that entire system. So yeah, I think we have mentioned. Someone is asking, Arindam, sir, you mentioned about some courses which are required in public policy. So if anyone wants to answer what kind of courses they can do, or what kind of things that they can do before they enter into something very substantial, I think that will be helpful for the entire panelists. Yeah.
Right. I think I'll start us off. So I think there are a few good courses when it comes to the Takshashala institution, from what I understand, and even for the folks who want to get into Big Four, I think even PwC, Deloitte, all of these four firms have their own courses also on Coursera, and so do companies like IBM. And Wipro. So, as far as I remember, so there are these multiple courses which sort of really help sort of set you up on how to think. But a word of caution on that: not everything that you read or sort of take take out as a key lesson might be the first thing that you apply when you get into a job. Uh, I'll give my own example. I think this was right in the very first job, right in the second week. I think there was a problem that we were sort of understanding, discussing on health care and how COVID was sort of spreading and what we should do. Uh, and I had very cursorily mentioned that should we do a SWOT analysis, only to get a few laughs that maybe that's a framework, that's a good approach. Yeah, like, but maybe what we need something right now is something entirely different. Maybe we need to get more data. Maybe we need to talk to more people. So what I'm trying to drive at is that, look, you can do courses, you can do edX is always there with multiple public policy courses as well. So I think there are multiple things that you would sort of learn from different platforms. But then again, knowing how to apply, when to apply, is something that you sort of learn the more you step in into the field.
Diksha, I would like to add
Yeah,
something
please,
here
please.
regarding this. I think deciding courses is totally interest and need based. So, for example, like when I decided to get into ISPP, I am actually a dropout from TIS. So I decided to drop from TIS to come to ISPP because it was a 1 year course, and I just wanted to enter the industry as soon as possible. But if somebody is of maybe a younger age or just is a fresher from college, maybe they can go for a 2 years degree. And again, it could be a master's in public policy as a general degree, or maybe they can go for TIS or other universities that offer a specific policy degrees like water policies, regulatory affairs. So it totally depends on the interest and the time at which you're trying to apply. What is the objective of that course? You should not just maybe go for the institution or go for the, you should have a specific objective of that course. The second thing regarding the short courses, I would say at the end of the day, it is about the narrative that you are going to explain the recruiter. So you should not be just and yourself, get registered into a specific course, and then you are saying your experience doesn't match the course and the narrative fails. So that is also important to build a narrative. I think the right courses are required. So you can choose any of these ways to choose these courses.
Thanks, Prakhyat. I think just one small thing that I would like to add. Also, aim to be thinkers and not just skill experts, right? That is extremely important. And one resource that I would highly recommend is two podcasts. These are Seen and Unseen and Everything is Everything by Ajay
Ajay
Shah.
Shah.
No, Ajay
Ajay
Shah
Shah.
and one more
Amit
guy.
Verma.
Amit Verma.
Amit Verma.
Yes, of course,
Amit Verma.
guys. Everyone in ISCB knows. Please, just whenever you have time, just listen. Open any podcast. They are very long. Just listen to them. And mind you, don't pick up a notebook and start writing notes. You'll go crazy. They are too long. Just listen. Just listen to them. You'll start having so many dots to connect, and you'll start having so many food for thought that I think that will be really helpful. One question that has come specifically for me is the best way to break down and study national and state sports policies. It's a very, I can speak for 2 hours on this. So anonymous, I don't know who you are, but please drop me a message on LinkedIn. I have started to take out specific time on my weekends to just, talk in. I'm also helping some people understand what sports policy exactly is and, how that goes. So some of these mentoring sessions are also happening. So feel free to drop a message, and I would like to understand more about where you're coming from. So I think I'm also cognizant of the time. We already have covered one full hour. I might have missed few questions here and there, but feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn, and we'll all be very happy to answer your question. We might reply late. That is some messages that I keep getting. You don't reply to us, but we all will get back to you at some point of time. And thank you so much for tuning in. I will now ask Kuhu to take over. Otherwise, we'll just keep talking. We have too much to tell.
Thank you, Diksha, for moderating the session so beautifully. Thank you, Arindam. Thank you, Vyoma. Thank you, Prakhyat, for being a part of the panel. Thank you, all the audience, for being the part of the panel. Yash has already, I think, dropped off because he had certain other commitments. It was definitely a very engaging and insightful session. I hope all the attendees got their questions answered, and I look forward to meet you all very soon at ISPP. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.